What's up, guys? It's me, Disbearity here, and I'm here with my friend Derper3,
Hello.
and we're here today to give you guys our tier list of Immortal Empires. So Immortal Empires has been out for a couple of weeks now, and I think it's high time that we start to just kind of feel like where does everything stand within Total War Warhammer 3. So without further ado, before we get into the video here, my name is Disbearity. I'm a variety content creator here on YouTube. I love to play a lot of real-time strategy games or just strategy games in general with RPGs on the side. And so if you guys haven't checked out my last video, definitely do. You can check out my last video in the top right corner of the video here. Make sure to click that. And let's go ahead and head on into it. So we're going to be starting out hitting the Natural Born Empire. All right. So how do you feel about Karl Franz, Derper? Tell me about him. What do you think?
Well, let's see. Well, considering in Warhammer 2, the Empire got a full slated rework with the whole Imperial Authority, which I think helped them out. But currently, I think in Warhammer 3, the Immortal Empire map, I think, granted that he's to the left of him, he has to deal with the Barad Legion, Heimlich Kemlar, if he ever decides to leave his Hovel of Mountains. Khazrak One Eye if he doesn't get wiped out by Boris.
Yeah.
But I've noticed the AI for the Beastmen have not been very good. He's gonna be mid to late game. It's gonna be really hard, especially if Festus isn't dealt with, because he will just wipe out the other minor Empire faction, so you won't be able to get much of the Confederation options. So you won't get the Imperial Authority unit that each of the Empire factions get. And also, I've noticed with the third game, they made the vampires more focused on expanding outwards to the Empire, so you got to deal with Vlad.
Well, the reason why they did that is because in lore, they always do that. They're programmed to do that. To even Warhammer 2, they did in Warhammer 2. They're supposed to expand all the way outwards towards Altdorf, because in lore-wise, they got Altdorf under siege until I think Karl rallied everybody and to push them back or whatnot. So that's supposed to happen. But in Warhammer 3, it's a lot easier, because like you said, Karl is surrounded by everybody. You don't know what to do.
So, depending on how good of a player you are, and if you're really good with Empire and you can manage around it, I would definitely say that they sit somewhere at me personally, I think either C or B.
I think B, because I feel like with B, it kind of sits in the middle, because because like you said, it all depends on how good you are as a player, how fast you can maneuver your armies around. If you can go ahead and take out your Empire Secessionists and then probably deal with Festus as quickly as possible. But also at the same time, the thing that's going to make it hard though is, like you said, with the whole they got that rework in. We have to, with the whole Imperial Authority, that will pop up. You'll have infighting and stuff that you have to deal with, and that's going to be challenging as well. And if you don't deal with them with all that quickly, the Von Kahr side is going to be an issue. Then you're going to have to fight on 3 sides, or really. You got to fight Festus. Then you got to fight the Vampire Counts, and then maybe depending on if Helmgart gets attacked, if you capture Helmgart, the Vampire Counts, if anything, or Grom. So it's a possibility. But yeah, I can dig it with B. The next one here we're going to talk about is Sudenburg with Volkmar the Grim. So let me go ahead and mark this down here. All right, Derper, go ahead. Give us, what do you think about Volkmar the Grim right now and his situation?
Okay, so even though I mentioned that the Empire faction's got a rework, Volkmar does not get the Imperial Authority and all that stuff, so he ignores all that politics. Instead, they've made Volkmar go on a crusade for the cult of Sigmar, the religion, because he's the grand theologist. So he now tasked with collecting all 9 books of Nagash to then lock them away. So kind of similar with the Tomb Kings, whenever Volkmar collects a book, he will gain bonuses. I've never played Volkmar, so I wouldn't know what these bonuses are. And so it's pretty good. Volkmar's a decent legendary lord. He can easily, if you get his items and his mount, he easily can survive a lot of fights.
I'm going to add on to you there. So you said you never played Volkmar. So Volkmar he's like a battle priest basically. That's what actually really what he is. He's a battle priest. So he's a
No. I mean, like, I've never played like Volkmar and Warhammer 3. I did play him in 2, but I never
okay,
played him in 3.
Okay, in the super. Okay, no, okay, you're good. Go ahead and finish up.
So currently, where he is right now, legendary ward wise, he is down in the desert, the land of the dead. So enemy wise, he's definitely dealing with Manfred von Karstein to the right of him. He's also dealing with Cetra because he'll probably go to war because Volkmar does not like undead and shit. And if Arkham the Black still survives, he's got him somewhere in the top left. Tic-Tac-Toe as well if he declares war because Lizard Man. And then Kairos in the very south of him if he ever survives and moves up, expands northwards. He's also got Forik Ironbrow, but usually Empire and the Dwarves have good relations, just depending on what type of Volkmar you're playing. Krokgar Techless, and as well far north you get Elfarion, but I think he rarely moves southwards because I think he's more focused on getting rid of Greaskins because he's got a grudge against them.
Yeah.
So similar, he's decent lord. He's got decent faction effects. If I remember, and lord effects. He definitely buffs the battle priest as well as his flagellants a lot because that was the unique unit that came with him in the DLC.
Yeah.
So I will say I'd probably put him in the same category with Reichland, but that's just my opinion. So definitely a B.
Okay. So
for the Cult of Sigmar.
With me here, with my saying on Volkmar here, is that I played him in Warhammer 3, and sadly, I had to give him like at least a C. And the reason why I had to give him a C is because it is a lot his gameplay is similar to Kislev, which we'll get later, or at least in area, which we'll get later into. So Volkmar, he's like you said, he's surrounded by Menfrey, he's surrounded by Tic-Tac-Toe, he's surrounded by Arcane, and he's surrounded by Cetra. So in my experience, when you go to war with Menfrey, you gotta go to war with him quickly and knock him out of the game quickly as possible. If you don't knock out Manfred, then everybody will easily declare war on you. Another problem is that in order to get like all 3 cities, you have to get all 3 cities in order to get a faster recruitment, right? Because I think you can only recruit like 2 units at a time until you get all your 3 cities that you need. And so that recruitment time, recruiting 2 units a turn, takes a while. Especially because the vampire counts can do what? They can just raise the dead for free.
Yep, raise dead and recruit.
Yep. At the same time, while Cetra, he can do the same thing. And so I have to stop my playthrough on Volkmar because he's one of my other favorite legendary warriors because of the simple fact that Cetra just had an infinite army. You wipe out one army, he already has another. We wipe out another one, he already has it. It was like a revolving thing. And then you have Tic-Tac-Toe. If he declares on you from the south, your playthrough is pretty much already over. And then on top of that, I had the random Wood Elf faction Orion's camp attack me out of the blue with a full stack. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is like I'm surrounded. Trust me, I love the Empire / Volkmar, but that was a little bit more difficulty than I could definitely ask for. But I mean, his playthrough was fun though. I will say that. But yeah, I definitely will have to give him a C on his playthrough. I mean, but you gave him a B/B. You said you gave him a B.
Yeah, I gave him the same rank as Reichland, but I won't know until I play.
Yeah, definitely get his campaign to play through. It's something different. But I do like it. But I will give him an S on his flag here. That meteor going down. I will give it
that is the comet of Sigmar.
Yeah,
that's what all the warrior priests and the witch hunters obey.
Okay, so this next one here, we're gonna be talking about Balthazar Gelt, the homie, the metal man himself, the guy who's just decided to put some metal on his face. Okay, I'm kidding. He didn't really decide that. But we're gonna be talking about We're gonna talk about him. I know. I screwed up here. We're good. I'm just excited to talk about it. So Balthazar Gelt, y'all. Balthazar, honestly, I will definitely, because his playthrough is very similar to Carl Friends, but I would like to say he's a lot easier because I don't think he has to deal with the whole Imperial authority.
Oh no, he does. He does.
It's been a bit. Actually, okay, so if he does, it's still a bit like similar to Carl's, but it's not as difficult as Carl. Because to the north, of course, he has the Empire, but Empire's not going to attack Empire unless you're going on a warmongering kind of deal, right? And then you have the vampire counts, Manfred and Isabella. I'm just kidding, Isabella over there, and then eventually they'll probably come up and strike at you.
I mean Vlad.
Yeah, Vlad. I'm sorry, Vlad Isabella. Sorry, thank you. And then from the south, I mean, the dwarves aren't really going to attack you, or Estelia, or the southern. They call them the Southern Realms.
The Seven Princes and stuff.
Yeah, they're not going to attack you because they're technically human as well, and humans kind of don't really go for humans, whatnot. But I feel like I definitely give their playthrough at least an A, an A minus, because of the simple fact that it's not really too much of a challenge, but at least you can get a playthrough going. Not like the Empire where you have to deal with Festus at an early stage. But what are your thoughts, though, Derber?
Okay, so Balthazar Gel he's pretty good starting army because he starts off with a rocket battery, and then his unique lore line gives buffs to artillery units, especially the rocket batteries. And considering he gets a flying mount and he is an arcane caster lord, so he'll have great arcane conduit, and as well as his items help him with overcasting of certain spells. And lore of metal is a pretty good lore of metal. As a lore of metal is a good lore of metal. Yeah, it's a good lore of magic because you've got good damage output. You've got decent buffs. You get decent debuffs and hexes and stuff. And the fact that you can easily
that spell called searing. Is it called searing arrows? I forgot.
Searing Doom.
Searing Doom. That spell late game is so broken because simple fact that you can literally spam it because it's up every second. It's insane.
Yep.
From 1 to 2 wins of magic, but keep going.
Okay, so it also buffs the artillery unit, so rocket battery, mortars, all that fun stuff. They will definitely benefit from extra missile strength, ammunition, and stuff. Army position wise, he's pretty good because he starts off. He has to deal with a bunch of a minor greenskin faction, and then probably at some point fight a minor dwarf faction as well. Who usually, if you want to get his full provinces and stuff. But yeah, he's more closer to Vlad, so he will definitely be on the sort of brunt against the vampire counts. And to the south of him, if he ever expands south, he will have to deal with Greenskin, especially Warzag, the Great Green Prophet, as well as the Butcher, the man himself, the big ogre guy carrying that big fucking pot, Scrag, if he ever decides to move upwards and after he deals with Belagar. So yeah, I will somewhat agree with you, but again, he has to deal with Imperial 40, so he needs to be careful with infighting and the event stuff. So yeah, I definitely say he's an A minus. I definitely agree with you on that because especially if you're really good with spellcasters and moving them around on their flying mounts, you can definitely win some battles with them. So yeah, A minus.
All right, cool. Okay, so the next legendary lord that we're going to be talking about here. Now, I have very little experience. I would say I have a decent amount of experience with it. I haven't played him yet in Immortal Empires, but I have played him a good amount in Warhammer 2, which I feel like his playthrough or play style will still similarly be the same in Immortal Empires, which is going to be Marcus Wolfheart. So Marcus, as you guys know, he leads the expedition. What's called the expedition?
The Huntsman Expedition.
The Huntsman Expedition. Thank you. And so he leads that expedition into Lustria. So if I remember from my Warhammer 2 playthroughs and stuff like that, you have to deal with a lot of lizardmen, and maybe even escape it if you get that far. But to the north, you have to deal with Mazamundi, but also you have to deal with a neutral / orc faction. I think it's called the Skull Boys. Maybe I think that's what their name is, the Skull Boys. Then to the south, you have to deal. I think if I recall, Itza, and then maybe Lord Scroll. Let me check the map here to make sure. Yeah, you have to deal with Itza. Then you have to also deal with Bordlow now, because Bordlow, the Bordlow, he's now down there with the Vampire Coast. So there's a lot of things happening in Lustria right now. But for the most part, though, it really looks like Marcus doesn't have to really deal with too much. He's pretty, I guess you could say, tame or safe. You just have to watch out from Lord Mazamundi. Because if Mazamundi comes into your, into your encampment, you better just kind of you got to just deal with them. So Marcus's starting units in Immortal Empires is that he starts with like 2 swordsmen, 3 spearmen, 2 huntsmen, 2 units archers or Empire archers, and also a war wagon with a halberdier. So it's not a bad starting army because it kind of gives you a hint that you have to deal with. By the way, if you really pay attention to it, because a lot of those units are anti-large, and so it's because you'll be going against lizardmen sometime in the future. That's actually a pretty good starting army. So if based off my playthrough of Marcus from Empire. I'm about to say Empire Total War from Total War Warhammer 2. I would like to say give his playthrough at least a B minus because it's not much that you have to deal with other than like just the lizardmen. So I guess you could say it's pretty tame compared to the the Southland Bull right now because Lustria is pretty tame. But what are your thoughts on him, on Marcus Thurber?
Okay, so Marcus, Volkmar, he is not acceptable to the Imperial Authority, so he has his own built-in campaign mechanic when he came out Warhammer 2, and that's still carried over to the third game, where if you attack lizardmen, if you're more aggressive to lizardmen, you will receive higher penalties against them. Because the idea is he gets every so turns he gets supplies from the Empire, which lets him recruit certain units. Like so, he gets an event and he has 4 options he chooses, and it gives what type of units he gets to recruit from his supply line mechanic. But the thing is, you get your supplies quicker the more aggressive you are, but also at the same time you lose diplomatic relationships with lizardmen, so you have a higher chance of all the lizardmen factions in Sovereign Luster to fuck with you. And considering he has the same starting position where he was in Warhammer 2, he deals with minor lizardman factions. He's got to deal with some Skaven factions as well. If he gets high enough penalty with the lizardman, he's definitely going to get war declared from Mazamunde, because Mazamunde has a faction effect. He has most negative diplomatic relationships with some factions. You've also got to deal with Gorok, the Great White Lizard and Defender of Itza, and then even more south if he's like still around, Tehenowin and his cult. And then if you do move more southward, you got to deal with Skrulk. If you move a bit more like to the westish side, you got to deal with Rakarth and all his Dark Elf monsters, as well as Zufar Harkon. You can make an ally because, like in next to Bretonia, next to Bordeloo, led by Alberk, who is the expedition now in Lustria as well. So you've got a potential ally, but you also got to deal with all that stuff. And it's kind of hard because when I remember when he came out with his DLC, a lot of people did not like some of the units he came with, especially the war wagons. People thought that they didn't feel really good pounding. But then again, but otherwise, as well as getting supply lines and then having to deal with diplomatic relationships, he also gains a unique quest to recruit 5 unique heroes to his army. He gets a witch hunter, he gets a Bretonian knight, he gets a dwarf engineer, he gets a wood elf waystalker, and I think that's about it. I can't remember all of them off by heart. And there is huntsman generals that he can get for his army. So each of them will provide their own unique buffs and such, and they will still play like their faction's heroes.
Yeah.
In a way. Again, he's one of the few legendary lords who is ranged. I think him and I can't remember his name. I think they're the only 2 ones that are ranged and start off with their bow legendary lord. So he definitely is. He does have some melee combat, but he's better with ranged combat, dealing a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's more so like I consider him similar to like some of Kislev's units where, well, I would say not Kislev's units, but say Pink Hordes where he's really good at range, but like if he needs to go into melee combat, he's not that he's not terrible, but at least he can handle himself. You know?
So I would say overall with what he's dealing with, what he's next to, then I definitely think he is, depending on player wise and all that stuff, I definitely think C.
C? We could drop him C. Actually, yeah, I could agree with that. It all depends on how everything feels and stuff. So yeah, not too bad. So yeah, he goes right there with Volkmar the Grim. Okay. So now that we're done with the Empire factions, we're gonna go with the Vampire Counts next.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna be starting off now talking about the Von Karsteins, Vlad and Isabella, the duet that lives forever. So first things first is we're gonna get this right off the bat. Is that if you choose Vlad, you get Isabella as a companion. If you choose Isabella, you get Vlad as a companion. So as long as those two guys are in the same army, they actually buff each other. So keep that in mind. They give each other strong buff, and with love and all, the power. I always say the power of friendship and anime, but it wouldn't be that. It'll be the power of love. It'll be power of love that
the power of fucking.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. So with Vlad here, okay, so with Vlad and Isabella, they do have a different starting army. Now it's not really too different; it's just a unit or two difference. I think, so with Vlad, you start out with 3 units of Grave Guards, which are actually pretty nice. Blood Knights, or 1 Blood Knight, 1 Fellbat, 1 Varkheist, and also 1 Black Coach. While with Isabella, it's the same army, except they get Crypt Ghouls, Vengeful, and that's it. That's the only 2 unit difference. So like I said, they have the power of love that hold them together. So the Vampire Counts are they seem, in my opinion, I haven't played them in like a couple years since Warhammer 1, but for what I have played of them, they're surrounded by a good amount of folks. They have the Empire to the north or northwest. You have the dwarves to your south and east. But then eventually you have Chaos and Kislev now and Immortal Empires to your north. And so you have a pretty good amount of choices in order to spread your vampire corruption. Now, if you're good with Vampire Counts and the right hands, I want to strongly give them an A. And the reason why I say I'm giving them an A, because in the right hands, the Vampire Counts, or just any member of the Vampire Counts, can be strong, especially if you use your zombies and also your Crypt Ghouls in the right manner, but also if you have spells that can regenerate HP to dwindle out your foes. Now, the faction that I will say that will be very challenging for them will be the dwarves, because them dwarves are some mean mother busters. I'll tell you, I'll say that they're mean. because once they get a grudge on you, they will not leave you alone. They will not. But like I said, you have to deal with the Empire. If you can take out the Empire, get most of your territories, especially like Sterling and Abraham, then I think you'll be okay. And then start, watching out for Kislev. But that's if Kislev doesn't go down first within, the first like 15 turns. What are your thoughts, Dipper, on the Vampire Counts, Isabella and Vlad von Karstein? I know you recently doing a playthrough on them. Not too long.
Okay, so Sylvania, they instantly get instead of starting in the minor settlement that's connected to Castle Drakenhof, they instantly get Castle Drakenhof, and like I think they get that also minor building as well, and they just need 1 building to get the full province. Mm-hmm. So starting off in Castle Drakenhof is definitely pretty good because Castle Drakenhof has that gold mine, and they also get that first landmark building, which helps them get vampires early. So it depends on either which one you start with. So if you start with Vlad, you still get your normal Vlad stuff. But when whoever you pick is their polar opposite, you get them as a hero, and they also get all their items, or their quest battle items. So if you pick Vlad, Isabella in your army is the hero, she will have her chalice. So that's pretty good early on, especially if you're fighting with Vlad and he's really low in health. You get Isabella supporting him using her chalice ability to heal lords and heroes with that ability. So it's pretty good. And then same vice versa. If you have Vlad as your hero, then he already has his Blood Drinker and he already has his Von Karstein ring. So he's a threat to deal with in melee because he will be constantly regenning and just dropping a hurt. Now, enemy-wise and around them, they do have all the Empire and human factions to like the left of them, and they have the dwarves to the right and to the back of them as well in the mountains. And then, like you said, mentioned Kislev in the far north, and then Chaos, especially because Chaos, especially Archeon, usually likes to roam down through the mountains.
Do you know who
from
we
what I
always
see?
forget about, though? We always forget about Dryka. Dryka, she's there, but the thing with Dryka is that she pops out, attacks you, and is like, let me fuck off for a bit. Literally, every playthrough.
But yeah, Drika always asks for non-aggression and breaks non-aggression, asks for non-aggression, breaks non-aggression.
And
She's just stuck on that cycle.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, let me just take you out because you're annoying. And she's just, I think she's just there to be programmed to be annoying. That's just me. But go ahead.
So
Continue.
as well as the vampire counts, because they recently got an extra thing that they all get called the bloodline mechanic. So if you play as either Vlad, Isabella, or Manfred, then they each start with what's called a blood kiss. A blood kiss is you gain.
Kemo does too, by the way. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, so I'm saying
okay,
he doesn't start. He doesn't start with one. All of them get access to the blood kiss mechanic, but playing the main vampires, they start off with one.
Oh, okay, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, so they easily get a head start on activating some of the bloodlines to help them out, and they've changed them from Warhammer 2. Some of them are different. So so as soon as they each like 3, 6, and then I think the last one's 12, and they each give unique things. There's 5 different bloodlines. Whenever you put a point in one, you gain faction. You gain a bonus that lasts the whole game, and you also get access to a bloodline lord. Whenever you recruit lords, you get your normal standard separate ones, and you get bloodline lords, and they each have their own unique skill tree compared to the other bloodlines, and they do effects. To get blood kisses, it was sort of kind of like it was kind of like Amber, but a bit more difficult. You would get them by defeating legendary lords. I think by defeating legendary lords, doing hero actions. I think with the vampires, if I'm 100% certain, but I might not be, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
So you can get if you go straight away with the von Karstein one, you will gain, I think, casualty replenishment rate plus 20% or 15%, one of the two, and also you have access to Sylvanian crossbowmen, which they buffed because in Warhammer 2, you used to only be able to get one Sylvanian crossbowman and one Sylvanian handgunners. In the second game, you can now recruit up to, you have 6 capacity and one Sylvanian handgunners, but you can't have more than one in the army, if I believe. So you're limited to only one per army. So that's pretty good.
Okay.
And if you give them to the von Karstein bloodline lords, then they also get what Vlad gets in his skill line, range boost to all the Sylvanian or Sylvanian handgunners. Okay. Early game, pretty good army. Just spread your corruption. So make sure what I do in my capital buildings is build the infrastructure building, which helps spread vampire corruption in adjacent provinces, which helps. So if you have some vampire corruption in territory, it definitely helps with when you're in there raiding, or so you don't have to always be raiding. You can just be in camp stance or channeling stance to get some replenishment.
Yeah.
I will say you definitely have to be. You're definitely going to be dealing a war on all fronts because you've got the Empire factions declaring war on you, and you've also got Ungrim Iron Fist. He'll definitely declare war on you early on because one of his great grudges, he has to attack buildings belonging to the vampire counts.
Yeah.
Which is right next to you. If you ever do expand in the mountains, if Skarsnik's still around, you got to deal with him. And like I said, Archeon like coming down through the mountain path anyway, because he starts really in the top right and he moves southwards, which is a pain. So you're definitely gonna have to keep an eye on chaos and dealing with that. So usually you'll be fighting a war on 2 fronts, but you can easily just manage that with army. And recently they made it that skeletons and zombies are no longer free upkeep, so you definitely gotta keep an eye on your income, especially. It is still reduced, but you still gotta keep an eye on it. But the one,
but they still do a big punch, though. I'll tell you that.
Yep. The unique thing with Vlad and Isabella, if they're together with each other, then they get a 50% battle cap healing increase for all their units. That basically means that whenever a unit has regen, or whenever you keep healing a unit or keep a unit alive in battle, they'll get a healing cap, and then later on it will shrink down, so they won't be able to be at all full health or get all their models back. As well as I've noticed the campaign line and the skill trees for all the vampire accounts have one that increases the battle healing cap even further by I think 50%. So an overall total, if you have Vlad, Isabella, and that skill, you have a 200% battle healing cap increase. So that means you can get a lot of use of your Invocation of the Hex, especially since Vlad and Isabella both have Lore Master of Vampire, even though they both changed them. So Vlad has, instead of pure Lore Vampire, he has some Lore Beast, and I think he has some Lore Death, but I'm not 100% sure because I didn't pay attention through that skill line. Because usually when I get Vlad as a Lord or Hero, I focus him as a melee rather than a caster. And the opposite with Isabella, I focus her as a spellcaster rather than a melee.
Yeah.
And Isabella, she gets Lore Vampires and she gets Lore of Shadows, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Okay.
So they removed, I think, Gaze in the Gash and the Curse of Urn from their skill tree, but they need to fix the Lore of the Vampire skill because it still gives the Winds of cost reduction for the Urn spell, which is kind of stupid considering they don't have that. But if you still want the spell, you can just recruit a Necromancer because Necromancers still have it.
Okay.
Overall, considering my experience that I played with them and it went very well, and I'm pretty decent with Vampire counts, I would definitely put them at A+.
A+? I can
Yep.
dig it. No, I need to add A+ tier. Let's go ahead and get that in there. All right, so we're gonna put them over here at A+. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about our next faction here, which is again another Vampire Counts faction. We're gonna be talking about the Mr. Manfred von Karstein himself. So before we get up into it, I'm gonna say this. Looking at the map here, Manfred is part of the Southland Bowl. All right.
Yeah.
He's there. He's direct smack in the center of it. He has to deal with, if I recall, Krokgar. He has to deal with some. I forgot what.
No, Krokgar. Nope.
Well, Krokgar's around the corner, but what he really has to deal with, he has to deal with Sudenberg across the street, Tehanawan, or I'm sorry, Tic Tac 2, which is
Tic Tac Toe.
South.
Kairos.
Kairos for now, because eventually in the future they're going to, I think, moving Kairos somewhere else.
Yep. And then Folek Ironbrow is that dwarf faction.
Yep. And
he's got Krokgar, Teclis, and he's got High Queen Kalita.
Etc. for the north, yeah, etc.
And then if Scarbrand ever comes down, oh boy.
Oh boy, yes. Oh boy. So Manfred is very similar to Volkmar the Grim, where he's looking to find the 9 books in the gash. About to say 5 books, the 9 books in the gash. His starting army here, he starts with 2 graveyard units, 1 skeleton unit, 2 zombies, 2 black knights, 1 unit of dire wolves, and one unit of Varkheist. So Manfred has some pretty good lord effects here. You know, he gets campaign roommate range, plus 10% for all characters. He gets minus 15% upkeep for Graveguards and Black Knight units. He gets unit experience plus 2 for Graveyard and Black Knight unit recruits on all his forces. He starts out with 1 Blood Kiss. He starts off with plus 30 Winds of Magic reserves and plus 10 leadership versus men. So instantly, he already has to basically go to war against the Empire especially if you want to use that buff there. But keep in mind, we also forgot to add in 1 faction that does mess with what do you call Manfred, and that is Orion's Camp, which is the neutral Wood Elf faction. Because that Wood Elf faction does like to come out every once in a while and take advantage of you if your army, especially really low, they want to take advantage of you, and you have to watch out for them. From my experience, since I haven't fully played him yet in Immortal Empires, but I can tell you the Volkmar experience is this. I will give his difficulty, or I'll put it like this. Because he's in the SmackDown center of the Southland Bowl, I'll have to give him at least his playthrough a D. And the reason why I give it a D is because even though he naturally plays like a Vampire Count faction, getting the Vampire Kisses and the Vampire Bloodline tree line and a lot of natural bloodline stuff, it's that you have the crucialness of the first 10 turns. That's very crucial to him. Because if you don't make the right decisions in those first 10 turns, either Volkmar or Cetra or Tic Tac 2 will take advantage of you in your playthrough, and you won't be able to make a push or go anywhere. But I will say this though, because he is a Vampire Count faction, he is able to raise the dead and also recruit at the same time, so he can constantly have an army up. But if you're playing on hard, modes such as legend, let's say like hard mode or even very hard or legendary, you need to watch out. Every step is crucial. So in my opinion, I have to give him a D, but we're gonna see what Derper says about this, and we can put our opinions together on this. So go. So what do you think of Manfred? Oh, before I go into that, by the way, I forgot one more last thing. He does get a couple mounts, by the way. His late game mount, which is a black dragon. So keep that in mind. It's a zombie dragon, really, but it's a black dragon. It's a zombie dragon. It's pretty good. And one last thing too. If you go to war with Skarbrand, again, watch out, because Skarbrand does have fire, and that fire will wreck the hell out of you. Just saying. But go ahead, Derper.
Okay, Manfred von Karstein, the bastard of the fucking world, the bastard of the end times, the most unbelievable prick imaginable in lore.
Agreed.
Okay, so like mentioned before, he is similar with Volkmar, where he does also collect the 9 books of Nagash, and also with Volkmar, I think they have a unique building. So if Manfred gets the books and he gets Castle Drakenhof, he can build a landmark building in Drakenhof, which doubles the effects of all the books in Nagash he gets. So he'll be getting even more greater effects from them. Besides being a fucking asshole, he has access to both Lore of Death and Lore of Vampires, which means he has 2 Lords of Magic to cast from, which makes him a pretty dangerous threat. Especially because he starts off with that unique ability, the Master of the Black Arts, that helps him with Winds of Recharge and Reserves, I believe. Again, with vampires, usually healing cap helps him out, and same with some research. He does get that 1 blood kiss early, so if he gets more blood kisses, he can definitely get some benefits to help him out, as well as some lords. Again, to deal with, he has to deal with stubborn dwarfs. He's got to deal with the annoying Empire faction. He's got to deal with his fellow Tomb King undead brethren, because Cetra's like, fuck you. He's got to deal with Tic-Tac-Toe if he ever flies over. If Krokar ever comes sniffing up north. That minor Widow faction, the Bows of Orion camp. Teclis if he ever decides, like, I'm bored of Kairos, I'm coming for that ass. Or if Kairos, when he's bored with Teclis, yo, I'm coming for your ass. You definitely have to be careful when expanding north, especially after dealing with Cetra, because if Skarbrand's still skulking around, he's definitely going to kick you to next Tuesday.
Facts.
So I will say, depending on the player-wise, if you're really good at vampires, if you're really good at getting out of a tough situation with not many resources to deal with, even though they did change Raised Dead, you can reduce the cost of Raised Dead, as well as if after you fight a big battle, you have a higher chance of getting the higher tier units. So like all your engine units, some zombie dragons, Vargulfs, Vargeists, Graveguard, Blood Knights, all the late game units you might have early access to without the buildings. I will definitely say Manfred von Karstein, even though I hate him in lore, he's a bastard. I'm putting him in D as well.
All right. Bet on that, dude. Honestly.
Fuck him.
If he wasn't in the Southland Bowl, man, I think he would be faring better. But that Southland Bowl is just something that's scary. It's super scary. The next vampire count faction we're gonna be talking about here is none other than our boy. Okay, I'm not really saying our boy, but our old man himself, Heinrich Kindler. Let's go ahead and talk on. And again, I'm gonna start out first. So Heinrich, I'm actually currently doing a co-op playthrough with a buddy of ours, and I'm actually enjoying his playthrough. Now with Heinrich here, Heinrich, starting out with his starting position here, he starts in the same position that he was given within Total War Warhammer 2. You have to deal with Bretonnia to the north. You have to deal with Grom the Punch to the south. And by the way, fun fact, if I recall, Grom actually has 2 starting positions if you didn't know this. Now, I'm not 100%. Now, I'm not 100% certain. So, the reason why I say this is because if you play as Eltharion, Grom might actually spawn right around the corner from you. Now, if you play as like anybody in Bretonnia, specific, either Heinrich or Wood Elves or Bretonia, the actual Bretonian factions, he'll spawn in that one skull area, in that skull mountain area. Now, I have to test this out again because in my Ethereum playthrough, he was there. And I was like, how did Grom get here at turn 5? There's no way he can get here in turn 5. But you never know. But anyways, first off, yeah, so you have to deal with Grom, you have to deal with the Wood Elves, both Wood Elf factions, and then you have the Empire to your east. Now, the Empire, at least in my playthrough, he, what do you call it? Mr. Carl Francis thought he was cocky and tried to attack me, and he got wrecked. And so keep that in mind. I was like, Carl, what you doing? You got to prepare for Festus. What are you doing here, bro?
Oh my god.
Yeah, he literally did.
Yeah, I know. I remember from my playthrough. I was like, "What are you doing, Carl? You're too far from home."
Yeah, so. I would say this: Heinrich has one of the better starting armies, at least in my opinion, as a vampire count faction, because he starts out with one group of Khorne race. He gets 2 units of crypt ghouls, 2 units of skeleton with spears, 2 units of zombies, 2 units of hex race, and 2 dire wolves. What lore magic? He has the lore, so he uses the lore of vampires to his advantage. So the man can literally heal for days. And if you, in my experience of having an army of what do you call it, zombies, at least about 5 units of zombies, 3 units of skeleton warriors, and whatever unit I can throw into the mix, that healing just keeps let's say this, the enemy army intact, like drainage, tired, for your main units can do the damage. Now, one special character that Heinrich does get available in his repertoire is Krell. Krell, that man's a beast. That man's a god among gods. Because if you send him into battle against the enemy lord, because you got to remember, Heinrich is a spellcaster, so he's really weak in melee combat, and you don't want him to melee combat to begin with. But Krell, on the other hand, he makes up for it, and he just shreds enemies. He just takes them apart. And also, Heinrich does get the ability of the lord. Of course. Well, actually, let me take that. Never mind. I'll take the back. So, in my experience in Krell's playthrough, because he is pretty chill for the most part, I would have to give his playthrough a B minus. And the reason I give him a B minus is because you can easily get all his start position is just very easy and very tame. The only hard part is getting one of your other locations, because that is near Marnburg. I forgot what that settlement is called, but it's a settlement where orcs are usually taken up there, and it's really challenging to get there because you have to go all the way around and to in order to capture, but also at the same time you don't want to move your full army up there because you have to deal with Grom eventually, because Grom will declare war on you and he will attack you. And from my experience, Grom, he'll only declare war on you if he has an army literally right at your front door. But like I said, I give his playthrough at least, if I said B minus, I actually want to bump that up to a B plus, because again, it's just pretty tame. But what about you, Dipper? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I played Heinrich Kemmler before, and oh boy, he is very fun. I definitely do enjoy him. Compared to his earlier changes when he was a part of the vampire counts, when Manfred, Helmet, and him were all together, he would only get Krell for a certain amount of time, but now they made him a permanent addition for battle, so that's pretty good. Heinrich Kemmler, also known as, I think, the Lich King, in lore-wise, he is a necromancer legendary lord, so he does have Master of the Dead. So that means he starts off with a point in it, and then later in level he can put a second point to increase the range. So it means whenever he's near undead units within a certain radius, he gives them regeneration. So on top of Invocation of the Heck and any Mortis engine or any corpse cart, you've instantly got some lot of regen for all the undead units. Later in his skill line, he can give Hex Wraiths, Kern Wraiths, and I think they're the only units. There may be some other ones. He gives them horrible regeneration, which helps them regenerate and bring back entities when they're gone.
Yes.
So he is definitely an annoying lord with tons of sustain for his units. And mentioned before, Krell is a pretty good hero. He can summon him. He instantly gets Foe Seeker and Deadly Onslaught, which helps him catch up with other enemies and then deal with a lot of damage.
me tell you what, my best addition for my best battle, I think I saved it for a cinematic replay. And this was a 2v1 battle, Heinrich versus the Empire. And this had Karl Franz himself, by the way. Keep that in mind. The auto resolve said this was a valiant defeat. Let me tell you how sick his regen is. Okay, like I said, if you have your zombies there to distract while your crypt ghouls and your other monsters units are doing the damage work, oh my god, because you just keep regenning those zombies up and they just don't die, and it just makes a difference. And then, like I said, if you have Krell with you, send Krell to go attack Carl or whatever lord you have, bruh. The game was like heroic victory. I'm like, yeah, fuck you, auto resolve. Fuck you. Not today. But I'm sorry to continue.
Yeah. Again, like you said, his first province is definitely hard because he's got the building he's got, and then he's got the next settlement next to him, and the other settlement is on separate mountain altogether. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely hard to get a first province straight away in his capital building line. But you can easily get a province from nearby Bretonnian factions nearby. Just fucking deal with the minor ones. Who cares? Just sweep them under the carpet like dead dust.
No bullying.
You definitely have to deal with Bretonnia a lot. My playthrough, Grom has never once attacked me, so I think we were pretty chill. But then I think he got a fight out eventually. You definitely have to deal with the Bretonnians. You've got King Leonlur, and you've got the Fey Enchantress to yourself. You've also got the Wood Elves, who will eventually sometimes come out, but only attack that one or two buildings in the next. And then Mr. Carl himself will be like, fuck you, I don't like undead, I'm coming over. Especially because along the mountain path there, they have the Empire Fort provinces. There's two on the border with Bretonnia, and then there's one a bit more closer to where Balthasar Gelt starts. So dealing with that, later game you have to keep an eye, because usually Morgor the Shadowgrave, he usually hangs around, and then he comes up a bit northish in Bretonnian lands, so you gotta definitely keep an eye on his Plague Beastman ass. The other cool thing, I don't know if they kept it with Heimlich, I think he was immune to chaos attrition, because I think the idea is, because Krell is a chaos warrior dedicated to Khorne that Heimlich brought back from the grave. So
imagine you said what's his name, Krell against fucking Scarbrand. Hey, aren't you one of mine?
Yeah, something like, hey, don't you like the blood god? Yeah, but I like vampires too. So yeah, I definitely think he'd be roughly the same position with like I did with Sylvania. He's pretty good spell casting. He also has Lore Master of Vampires too, so that definitely helps with Invocation of the Heck as well as the other spells. He also has since he has Lore of Vampires, he's got that ugly fucking Wall of Death spell, the disgusting Wind of Death, which is piercing through a lot of armor. So you just line up them zombies to like meat wall them, hold them back. One good cast, that's a nice fucking ooh. It's like spreading butter. It's like butter on toast, my guy.
He said butter on toast. I'm done.
But yeah, I definitely put him as A+ with Sylvania.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. We'll actually throw him up A+. I could agree with that. Let's see where my boy at. There you go.
There is the Barrowed Legion.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I heard some really scary things about him, and I think they're going to be nerfing him pretty soon, unless they already have. And this is the man himself, Helman Gorst. Now, I'm not going to lie. I never really played Helman Gorst in all three games because I always thought he was an ugly character to look at, and I was like, I can't look at the ugliness. I mean that as serious. That's one of the reasons why I haven't played him. But for what I heard is this: his regeneration is devastatingly scary, and that's something you have to watch out for. So looking at the map here, where his starting position, honestly, his starting position looks freaking tame. Not gonna lie. I mean, he has to deal with Emmerich to the very west of him. He has to deal with Nurgle to the southwest. He has to deal with the Ogre Kingdom, it looks like, to the north. And then you have the southern provinces of Cathay to the west or northwest. I'm sorry, northeast. Northeast. And then to the deep east, you have Nakai the Wanderer, but I don't think Nakai is ever going to come at you. Now, of course, whenever they come, if the Kingdoms of End and Koresh come, Gorse might have to deal with them depending on when they come. But also in the future, though, there will be Chaos Dwarves, so he'll have to deal with them as well. So just get that out of the way, right? So yeah, one of Helman Gorse thinks that he's of course a spellcaster, and also he has amazing regeneration, which means that you have to use fire attacks in order to weaken him down or weaken that regeneration down. His spells are the invocation. He has the Lord of Vampires, of course. The invocation of the Heck, Van High's Dance, Macabre, Gaze of Nagash, Curse of Years, Winds of Death, and he has the Awaken from the Grave, which is unique because it replaces Raise the Dead and summons a unit of Graveguard and White King if overcast. And his mount, he gets the Brothers Gorse Corpse Cart. And so his starting units, by the way, are it's a really different compared to normal vampire counts. He gets 2 units of Crypt Ghouls, 5 units of Zombies, 2 units of Crypt Horrors, 1 unit Mortis Engine, and 1 unit of Corpse Cart Unholy Lord Stun. And so far, I mean, from what I heard is that he's disgusting right now in terms of gameplay and mechanics. So I would have to give him an S. And this is from what I hear from people from the Total War Reddit. Shout out to you guys, and also from various other friends that play Total Warhammer 3. That's what I'd say. So I'm gonna let Derper go ahead and go into more detail. What do you think of Helman Gorse, Derper?
Okay, Helman Gorse. I don't know what they did to him. Holy shit! Considering where he starts off, he starts all the way over to the east, so he's like very, very away from your usual Sylvanian lands. And also, he is right next to Kugath Plaguefather. But here's the unique thing about Helman Gorse. His unique Lord Army ability. He is immune to Plague. So Kugath sitting there, stirring his pot, making some gumbo, making all that shit nice and tasty. Yo, Helman, you want some? He eats it. Nah, he immune to that shit, brother. He won't get no attrition from that. So you can give him all the debuffs you can, but he ain't suffering no attrition unless he enters your territory for Nurgle corruption. But either way, that Plague is gonna do fucking nothing to my boy. As mentioned before, his starting army, he starts off with that Mortis Engine. Mortis Engine effect, pretty fucking good. Gets into combat, boom, everything around it, damage. Has that Corpse Cart with an Unholy Lodestone, boom, everything around it, regeneration. My boy Helman, he's out here swinging, he casting spells, you can't kill him. He's too busy healing and doing Mortis Engine effect. He can out-sustain Nurgles. Nurgle. He can even out-sustain he can out-sustain Kugath when he's chilling with his mini homies, and he buffs them a lot. Like, goddamn. So as soon as you wipe off the pathetic excuse of a Nurgle, of a great unclean one, a waste of space in Grandpapa Nurgle's eyes, it's easy sailing. The will difficulty, I will say, you gotta deal with Imrik. Imrik, he loves dragons. What do dragons like to breathe? Motherfucking fire. What do undead don't like? Fire. It makes that shit crispy. So you definitely have to be careful when playing with him, especially because high elves are annoying because they'll have lots of archers in the army, so the balance of power will favor them for all resolve because archers pew. As well as because Imrik has an effect where if he attacks with his Starlands, he can also increase the weakness to fire, and he also starts off with a Lore Fire Mage, and if she has casting spells and she has Kindle Fire, that's even more fire weakness for your boys that are extra crispy. I noticed in my Isabella solo playthrough that I got the ultimate campaign victory to take out all the vampires. He was the last one because I had to travel so far east to deal with him. This man crawled his bony hands into Greasus' Goldtooth territory and wiped him off like he didn't even exist. He never went in so far deep into the lands at Cathay because I think he didn't want to risk it because, Cathay don't fuck around with their military power and hoorah.
Yeah, true.
So again, if you're definitely playing Helman Gorse, you're just going to be so annoyed, especially because his faction effect gives all his corpse cart summon lesser dead. So you've instantly got more zombies, more units straight away in battles if you have a lot of corpse cards. Just instantly summon zombies and just help deal with the enemy because you can easily battle attrition wise. You could definitely handle more pressure than the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But he is getting a nerf. He is getting some fixes. So I
Yeah, I
definitely
see
will
that coming.
say I
But yeah,
definitely do. I definitely do agree with my co-partner here to stick him up in S. But ultimately, it just depends how good you are. If you're definitely taking out all the potential threats, all the flaming attacks, you're trying to get rid of them early, you'll be pretty good smooth sailing. So yeah, I say Helman Gorse is an S.
all right. So we're gonna throw him up in the S market. There we go. All right, everybody. All right. So the next faction we're going to be talking about here are going to be the Norskins. Specifically, we're going to be talking about our man, the one and only Wolfric the Wanderer, who is, of course, the Norscan World Walkers leader. All right. It's this little flag. It's this flag right here. So with Wolfric the Wanderer, Wolfric, first off, we're going to start where he's, as usual, we're going to start where he starts at. He starts basically in the same position as he always has.
No,
Down
he's
to
moved. No, he's moved positions.
well, actually, no. Yeah, he moved. Yeah, he moved actually a bit, like what, a bit to the left. Yeah, he did.
He used to be. If
I
you
think he used to be
looking
like
at
where Azazel was,
looking
right?
looking at the map, he used to be no, he used to be south of Ice Tooth Mountains, like south of there, because he started the Ice Pack Bay, and then he'd have to move up.
True. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is true. That is true. So yeah, Wolford, he did move. To the southwest, he has to either deal with what's his name? Not Azazel. God damn it.
That's
Uh,
Bellicor.
Belcor. Yes, thank you, Belcor. And then to the south, he, if you want to, or well, you will, you can raid the Empire or Britonia to the south for some easy gold. It's put, if you can capture the Marnburg port or Marnburg city, that's an abundance of gold there. Keep that in mind. To the east, if you want to go to war, you can take over the territory and you can either meet up with Throg or meet up with Azazel. To the north, you deal with what's his name? Not Elefanar, the dude who controls Hagith.
Oh, Hagreef. That's Malice
Yeah,
Darkblade.
yeah, Malice Darkblade to the north. That's northeast, and then you have also Sigvald the Magnificent directly to your north. So not too bad. I mean, it looks like his playthrough is pretty similar to his Warhammer 2 playthrough, just a bit changed up, and it's also pretty tame, in my personal opinion. Um, let's see, Wolfric here. He has a couple starting abilities here. He has Sea Fang, 100 champions, Folk Seeker, Fight or Die. And now throughout the campaign only, though, he gets Deadly Onslaught, Rally, and Standard Die. His passive abilities is Rage. His, let's see, unique item is the Sword of Tolgord. And he does get a couple of mounts. You get the Norsca Warhorse, the Marauder Chariot, and also the War Mammoth, which is pretty scary for late game. His starting units is that he gets Marauder Champions, which in a sense are basically aspiring champions in a way. He gets Marauder Berserkers, Marauder with great weapons, which I believe just do armor piercing. He gets Marauder Horsemen with a Feral Mammoth for Immortal Empires. He gets, let's see, his Lord effects are reinforcement range plus 30% in Lord's Army. He gets the Causes Fear in the Lord's Army as well. And that's pretty much it for Wolfric here. Well, with Wolfric, what do you think about him, Derber? Give us your honest opinion about Wolfric the Wanderer.
Okay, so Wolfric the Wanderer. Well, I will say for Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 3, the Immortal Empires, the little rework they gave Norsca, they made them so much better than compared to Warhammer 2. They can now generate a decent amount of fucking income.
Nice.
And Norsca, it's always easy to confederate because with Norsca, all you gotta do, if you just kill the faction leader, you can instantly confederate. That's the same with Greenskins as well. If you kill their faction leader, you can confederate with them.
Oh, really? I did not know that because I haven't played Norsca yet, or at least Wolfric in Warhammer 3 yet.
Yeah, no, that's always been the case with Norsca. They did that in the second game with a minor tweak, but the major update they did for Warhammer 3 is make them build income. So they have their normal fur building, which gives them income, but they have another building that gives growth as well as increases income of, I believe, income of ports in adjacent provinces, and and there's a majority of some Norscan settlements that do have ports, so you could instantly rack in all that good money.
That is true.
To also top it off, they changed the gifts that Norsca gives. So in Norsca, you have the 4 Chaos Gods that are represented by animals. You've got the Hound, the Serpent, the Eagle, and the Crow. They do similar stuff, except Crow no longer spreads a plague around the world. Instead, gives you casualty replenishment rate, wound time, and I can't remember the third bonus. But at the end, each of the rewards are different. So if you go full into the Hound, which is Khorne, you gain access to an exalted hero of Khorne to recruit. If you go straight into the Eagle, which is Tzeentch, you gain access to a Lord of Change, legendary lord that you can recruit and then give armies.
Oh, nice.
If you go full in the Crow, you get an exalted Great Unclean One. If you go full in Slaanesh, which is the Serpent, I think you get a Chaos Sorcerer of Slaanesh, if I remember. Each of them have a built-in effect, so I know from when I played my Wulfric the Wanderer in a co-op campaign with a friend, we both played Norsca, I went all the way to the Hound, and I got the Exalted Hero of Khorne, which in the army gives, if I remember, gives the Blood Frenzy ability, so as soon as they get 80 kills or more, then they do a lot more damage. And I can't remember what the other effects are off the top of my head, but I know if you go full into the Crow, or Nurgle, and you get exact access to the Great Unclean One, he gives his army. Well, first he gives faction effect wise increased hit points to all characters, so all your lords, your heroes are a bit thicker.
Big
You also gain horrible regeneration in that army. So every unit he has in that army, they have horrible regeneration. So that means they can regenerate their entities, which is pretty good. He also gives the army poison attacks as well, and poison is pretty good at weakening the enemy, like soften them up.
Very true. Very true.
I don't know what the other ones is. I think from I guess an assumption, if you went all the way to Eagle, Lord of Change, he'd definitely probably give his unit some magical barrier and maybe magical attack as well, so they can easily deal some damage and probably some Winds of Magic reserves. For Slaanesh, definitely I think maybe physical resistance, extra speed, all that stuff for your Lord's army.
Okay.
So yeah, okay. Positioning wise, they like as mentioned, they did move Wulfric. He used to be at Coldheart Pack Ice Bay, which I think is the Icefoot, but they have Tooth Mountains. So they definitely moved to starting position. He now starts in the Valheim Mountains, and he instantly gets like a capital. He gets like an 8-tier settlement, which is pretty good rather than starting off with a 4-tier.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's easy to confederate all of Norsca. You just got to kill the faction leader, and boom, you got it. Your outside threats are definitely going to be Kislev, because they're going to be annoying if they're still around, as well as Great Orthodoxy. Azazel you can be pretty fine with relationship-wise, but if he does get negative relations, he will declare war on you and stuff, but that normally happens. You can easily wipe him out good enough. Especially Wulfric, if you get his own personal line, because he, as mentioned, one of his abilities does a major debuff to the enemies, and they also can't move. So they're just perfect metal and gear for. And if you have your Sword of Torgvald, you're instantly doing, and you activate the effect, you get 90% base weapon damage increase for a period of time. So you will be hitting hard with Wulfric.
Damn.
Wulfric
to go. Definitely get him to go.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Be'lakor won't go to war with you. He'll be too busy just sowing seeds of destruction in the heart of the Empire. You'll eventually go down and fight the Empire. Eventually, Tony will declare war on you, but you can easily handle them French fuckers. Like, who gives a fuck? Keep an eye on your north side because Malice will definitely go to war with you. Same with the Demon Prince. But the Demon Prince, if you focus him down, he's pretty easy to deal with. Like if you focus him like in the battle, because he's not really strong in battles. He's like actually pretty fucking weak. Like holy hell.
Yeah.
You will have to deal with Frog because Frog will declare war with you. But if you usually just win a battle against him, you can instantly confederate him, and he's no longer a threat. And he's just in your army.
I think that's the reason why.
I will say this is like my personal opinion. If you want a good, strong economic start, you definitely want a majority of the settlements in Norsca. Don't be raising them. Don't be like raising them for your god because I mean you could cheese it and do that, raise them and then settle them, but then you're just gonna spend more time replenishing with the army. So when you move into the heart of the Empire or the heart of Bretonia, that's when you can start raising them settlements like, yo, fuck you, spread all that corruption, get the glory of the gods. But still remember, whenever you achieve level 3 with any of the gods, just any of them, you're instantly gonna get affected by the other 3 with armies that attack you. And eventually you'll have a quest battle to deal with one of them.
Yeah.
So you will have to keep an eye on that and keep an eye on your territories because they will attack your territories and they will get invaded.
Okay.
So far, with Wolfric the Wanderer, with some of the recent Norsca changes, makes them have a decent economy and decent army. Better gifts, rewards for along the Chaos Alignment. I will say Wolfric the Wanderer and the World Walkers is an S tier.
S tier. Let's see. Yeah. Just thinking about it from all that you said. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Where's your flag at, Mister? There you go. It's like I just lost track of you, and now I found you. All right, so we're going to go on to Mr. Throg here. So Throg is kind of technically basically in the same position as Wolfric. I feel like their campaigns are basically one and the same, except you have different factions to deal with. Now, with Throg here, the Troll King himself, he gets Frostbite, armor piercing off the bat, and also regeneration. And then he's a melee expert duelist, basically. Or, well, really just melee expert. So he's scared to fight up front. The man gets the Copious Vomit, Fight or Die, or Foe Seeker as active abilities. While for the campaign only, Deadly Onslaught and Rally. Passive abilities, Regeneration. Campaign only, he gets the Chilling Aura. And the items abilities, the Winter's Tooth Crown. So his starting units are not too bad themselves. He gets 1 unit of Marauders, 1 unit of regular. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let's rephrase that. 1 unit of Chaos Marauders, 1 unit of just normal Marauders, a unit of Norscan Ice Wolves, 2 units of Norscan Trolls, and 2 units of just regular Frost Norscan Trolls, and 2 units of normal Norscan Trolls. So that's actually not too bad. Of course, he gets the attribute, the Siege Attacker. Public order plus 1 out of province. All units, Throg's army are immune to all attrition. Wow, that's actually pretty busted. Immune to all attrition. And he gets +2 to Chaos Corruption. Now, his character traits are he gets the Monster's Ruler. He gets Course attribute, Siege Attacker, Public order +1. Okay, we did all that. And so, yeah, it's actually not too bad at all. Honestly, not too bad at all. So, with Throg here, the Troll Man himself, in Immortal Empires, he's surrounded by, of course, Azazel to the west, Kislev or the Orthodoxy, well, both Kislev and Orthodoxy to the south. He does get Throt the Unclean One to the east or southeast of him, which Throt, by the way, probably will not attack you unless provoked, because they usually, in my various campaigns as playing as Kislev, they normally don't attack each other. They're actually friends. That's what it seems like. You also get Boris to the east, if I'm correct, right? Yeah, that's his name,
that
right?
is,
Boris,
that is that's good old. I think his name's Boris. Yeah, the Red Tsar.
And then who's that north of him?
That's the Demon Prince.
Oh yeah, that's the demon. Oh, that's Daniel. There you go, Daniel.
Yep.
And so again, his playthrough is very similar to Wolfric, at least in my opinion. So it's pretty tame. Now, if you go to war with Wolfric the Wanderer or vice versa, you take him. Like Derp said earlier, you take over, you kill the faction leader, you get to confederate them with ease, so you can get them out of the way, and then you can just go basically have a normal Norscan playthrough, honestly. depending on what you focus on what god that you want to go with. But I would honestly have to say though, watch out for those green skins. And if Kislev is still here, watch out for them too. But normally though, from what I usually see, is either Festus or Azazel or Throt will usually wipe out Kislev pretty early on. But what are your opinions there on Throg? Give us some more detail.
Okay, so I never personally played Frog. My friend did play Frog. Frog's ideal army is usually just filled with just ice trolls. Just completely majority ice trolls if you just want a full stack. If you do want some range options, you can just make a second army with some Marauder Hunters and Marauder Hunters with Javelins. Now, again, Frog is a pretty strong early leader. You are fighting a minor faction of dwarves around the place, but they can easily be taken care of. It's just really hard to deal with. I mean, you do have the trolls and they're decent monster units, especially since Frog buffs trolls because they usually have shit leadership. So in the late game, trolls become more viable. But like I said again, with the new update, Norsca could definitely benefit from a good income. So it's the same advice for Wolfric. Just don't be raising like the settlements in Norsca. Just like capitalize them, make all the money you can. Just head south. Just deal with other places you really don't want to colonize. Just raise that to your gods. Give them your blessings. Just, as always, remember when you reach tier 3 in alignment with any of them, depend on who you're feeling, how you're doing. You gotta remember to watch out for the challenges of the upper gods, because they will mess up your settlement. So make sure you have some armies back home to keep your land safe and secure while you're out raiding with the boys.
Facts.
Same again. S rank for Frog. I think Norsca, what they did, giving them a decent income, helps them out with that income, so they're not always focusing on trying to deal with sacking to get some money or raiding camp. But stacking and raiding camp still gives you a lot of money, especially with the research.
See, maybe in the future, I'm probably going to do like a tier list about the multiplayer aspect, because with multiplayer wise, if I were to add that into it, it would be a totally different story for Thog. But since this is campaign only, we'll throw it up there in the S tier.
And another plus with Frog, with his unique item, the Crown of Wintertooth, he can make other people around him unbreakable. So even if you did get at early game and you don't really have the leadership for your units, and you just in ham with Frog around them, just instantly pop that, they're unbreakable. They won't run away even if their leadership's low. They'll just keep fighting till the bitter end.
Nice. Okay, so because we're getting a little bit short on time, we're going to talk about one more faction here, the Ogre Kingdom. So we're going to go again. We're going ahead and talking about the Ogre Kingdoms here. First things first, we're going to talk about Mr. Grease's Goldtooth himself. Okay, so starting off with Grease's Goldtooth himself, the biggest man in the Ogre the Ogre Kingdom. So Grease is I want to say this. In the Immortal Empire's camp, he basically starts in his same position as he did similarly in what is called the Realm of Chaos playthrough.
Yeah, Realm of Chaos.
I want to say that his playthrough so far is pretty tame. Okay? Really tame because he has a Skaven faction to its west. He has Emmerich to his southwest. He has Helming Gorst, though, to his south, and the man has gorgeous regeneration. And then you have Nurgle, another faction that has decent regeneration or gorgeous regeneration. And then to the east, you do have the southern Cathay provinces, which is led by Zhao. And then to the north, you have Grimgor Ironhide. So, and who else is that? Who else is next to Grimgor? Is that who is that, Derber? That up close to Grimgor.
Oh, that's Kolek Suneater.
Okay, yeah, Kolek. See, I rarely see Kolek, so I think I only played one campaign before. So his playthrough is pretty tame, but here's a problem with the Ogre Kingdom as of right now, is that their expansion is really bad because it feels like that you technically get penalized for expanding. And it really hurts their campaign and their campaign style. Now, before we get more in depth here, Grease's Goldtooth, he gets his attribute is great axe. He's a great axe infantry. He gets anti-large, armor piercing, melee expert, and ogre charge. And you know the ogres are big boys, by the way. They're really big boys. His abilities, act abilities are everyone has their price. Stand your ground. Then for campaign only, he gets Foe Seeker and Rally. His passive ability is Horde Master. For campaign only, it's Snacks. Item abilities: Scepter of Titans and Over Tyrant's Crown. And that's pretty much for his abilities there. Now, in Immortal Empires, his starting army is 3 units of Nobblers, 1 unit of Nobbler Trapper, 1 unit of Man-Eaters, 1 unit of Iron Guts, 2 units of Ogre Bulls, dual weapons, by the way, and 1 unit of Ogre Bulls. I forgot which version of Ogre Bulls. Which unit? This is I guess you call it just normal Ogre Bulls, actually. So, with all that said here, the main issue that I'll have to give the Ogre Kings, at least as of right now, because of their current state, is an F. Because, like I said, the camps are really holding them back, and this issue was brought up because on the Total War Reddit, someone was discussing their issues and their major problems, and this keeps them from being really playable and competitive in the Immortal Empires campaign. And I can, after reading that, if I can find the post again, I'll post it. I'll make sure I have it in the description below this video. I would totally, I'll find it for y'all, basically. So, but therefore, what do you think, though, about the Ogre Kings right now in their current state?
Okay, so personally, I've never played Greases. I remember before Immortal Empires, I played Scrag, so it was pretty good. The only difference, I will agree with you, the camp system is not really good in Immortal Empire. Here's my explanation, which is probably also on the Reddit, but I never read it. The thing is, the difference between Immortal Empires and Realm of Chaos is just Immortal Empires settlements are just too close to each other than Realm of Chaos. Realm of Chaos has a decent chunk of the map in the old world, but there was still enough space in between all the different settlements. But right now, because Immortal Empire, since it's such a large map and they have to shorten it down, many settlements are close to each other. The idea with the ogre camps was to basically have a settlement away from like your main province and stuff to help with replenishment, recruiting, as well as you're generating the ogre's unique resource meat, kind of like with Skaven with their food. Now the thing is with Greasus, the only threat he probably mostly have to deal with is Grand Cathay and Helman Ghost and Kugath Plaguefather and Imric if they're all still around. If you ever want to expand northwards, you got to deal with Grimgor and Kolek. If you want to expand a bit more, if you want to expand westwards, then you've got to deal with like I mentioned before, Imric, and then Tzeentch Craventail if he's still around, which is going to be tough because Tzeentch Craventail, he has bonus versus large. Even though he is a Skaven and they have terrible leadership and they run away with their scurry, he's still pretty good because he has effects to help buff leadership of himself as well as others. Now, Greasus is kind of good because besides his faction effects, where all the units in his army has bigger mass size, so that means his charge bonus from ogres will hurt a lot more when charging into people, as well as the Ogre Kingdoms effect. When you start a battle, you can consume some meat, which increases your speed and charge bonus for ogres as well as their mass size. So that means you're really helping the laws of physics test momentum and motion.
Really?
Yep. Now, Ogre Kingdoms do pretty good units. Even they may even know their units are few entities, but they're still big, large, and help and do a lot of damage. They've definitely got the range capacity with some of their units, and the monster units like the Storm Bulls and all that stuff. I can't remember the full name. Are pretty strong. Greasus himself is a decent unit. As a great axe infantry, he does do a lot of armor piercing damage and help deal with any large threats. But again, your biggest threat was probably mostly Heimengorst and definitely Kugath. So make sure that you recruit a fire belly hero in your army so you could get some lore of fire going. Because definitely expose that fire weakness. Flame Swords and Runes, a pretty good augment area buff. Give all the units magical attack and flaming attacks, which will definitely deal with the regeneration. Especially with Helman Gorst. As we mentioned earlier, he does busted regen because with corpse carts and all that other fun bullshit he has as well, he usually must have you'll have some necromancers in his army. Grand Cathay, if you definitely want to expand eastwards and get right in there and feed the Great Maw all the tasty meat. So I will definitely say, and also a negative with the camps, because remember, any enemy army within the radius of your camp can also recruit units from your camp, because that was the original idea in Warhammer 2. There would be ogre camps that show up because they were teasing that ogres were going to be in Warhammer 3. So they gave everyone a little taste. So you have to keep in mind that camps are a double-edged sword, as well as giving your own armies extra ogre units to recruit from. You're also giving the enemy chance to recruit some ogre units. So you best be prepared to fight ogre on ogre action.
Yeah.
So again, I definitely will agree with my friends that Ogre Kingdoms are not very good, but I personally have not played in Immortal Empire, so I've really not experienced the struggle. So for now, I'll definitely agree with that Grease's Goldtooth and F.
It's like if once they get changed and fixed up, they'll definitely become a better force to be reckoned with. But as of right now, because of Immortal Empires, they have to get thrown to the F tier. I mean, and don't get me, I love their as a concept. I really, really do. Their concept is amazing because they're ogres.
I really love it.
They're ogres. They're gigantic dude that's going to kill you. They're going to eat you for no reason. But their favorite. Don't forget though, their favorite dish are either Skaven or or goblins. But I think in lore they said goblins don't taste very good, so that's why they let goblins stay around them basically. So I mean, Skaven is right. Next thing we're gonna pop. I think this one's honestly gonna be again very quick. This is Scrag the Slaughter. I don't want to dive too much into him because he plays the same way into Goldtooth as well. Again, like I said, we're going to throw him into the. Oh, I'm going to be throwing him into the F tier. Just starting off right off the bat. Yes, I know. Starting right off the bat. It's now. Let's keep in mind though is that with the camp stuff aside, in the future they are going to be changing his starting position as well. Same thing as they're going to be doing with Kairos of Tzeentch. So keep that in mind. So this is bound to change. But as of right now though, with Scrag here. Scrag is a wizard, first off, who is also anti-infantry, who gets armor piercing plus ogre charge, and of course he's a spellcaster. So which basically means that he can handle himself pretty well in terms of melee combat. All right, and his current position right now, he is currently going or fighting for. I want to say it's called the Southern Realms Bowl, or somewhat partially part of the Southland Bowl, because to the south he's surrounded by Leoness. He's also surrounded by Ethereum. He has the Bellicor to the is his name not Bellicor? I'm sorry.
Oh my God, no!
Belligar.
He's dealing with Rapunzel de Leonis, Elfarion, Arnes Assault Spite, Belligar Ironhammer, Warzak the Great Green Prophet. I did play the Malagor, the Shadow Woman, or something like that. If you do expand a bit more eastish, you've got Cetra, Scarbrand, Quick Head Taker. If you go a bit more northish, you definitely gotta deal with some Bretonians, some Wood Elves if they ever come out, but they usually just stay in their forests. Ikit if he gets expansionist. Definitely Balthazar Gel because he'll definitely be around the southern lands.
Yeah. So, in general, I think me and Derek can both agree as of right now, in terms of where Scrag stands. Yeah, he belongs in the F tier with Goldtooth at the moment, especially with the camp system. I mean, unless Derek wants to go into more detail with Scrag, do you want to or?
I will say I did play Scrag in Realm of Chaos, which I really did enjoy. I like the idea that the lore of Maw for ogres is definitely really good lore spell for them. Doing the hexes as well as buffing your own units is pretty good. I will say Scrag mostly focuses around Gorgers, But I personally have barely used Scourgers, so even though he really does good with them, I really barely used them and such. But Scrag is pretty decent in melee combat. The idea he can keep good winds of magic because of his blood cauldron, as well as later when he does get the item to help him and his Gorgers out with regen, weapon, and attack damage, which is pretty good. Especially because he has the unique ability which lets him summon a unit of Gorgers. But as well, summoned units won't last for long, so you gotta make good use of them and use them at a really good time.
Mhm.
But I will still say, because of the camp system and his starting position is really not the greatest, I definitely will say I've not played Immortal Empires, so again, I'm going with my friend here, F tier.
All right, so go ahead and place him in. And before anything else, just to let you know, I forgot to mention his starting units. He gets 3 units of Nobblers, 1 unit of Nobbler Trapper, 2 units of Gorgers, 1 unit of Saber-Tusk Pack, 1 unit of Ogre Bulls, and another one is, I think there's Ogre Bulls with dual weapons. And so, with that, guys, we're going to be ending part 1 to this Immortal Empires campaign tier list. So there will be a part 2 and maybe potentially a part 3, how far, depending how.
I feel it's definitely going to be a 4-parter considering how many factions we have left.
It probably is, because we're going a lot in depth, and I appreciate Derper for going more in depth than what I'm going depth, but Derper's going death.
I mean, I'll do my best, but I've not really played all the factions. I played some of them. I know how the AI usually works with the other factions, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am too. I'm like, usually if I speak more about certain things, it's usually from factions that I have already played, and I can speak about them from my experience. But so far, though, I mean, we got through a pretty good amount of factions so far. We got a good amount down, so I mean, we still got plenty more to go. So
yes.
first things first, if you guys enjoyed this well, thank you for Derper3 for joining me in this video and the other parts. Appreciate that, first off.
Oh, no problem.
For you guys who enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell down below to be notified when the next video is coming out. And last but not least, if you guys ever want to support me further, definitely consider subscribing to the channel, where you guys can subscribe to as low as $2 a month. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all over the next part. Peace out and much love, everybody. Have a good one, y'all. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and also